They never taught you this in any educational institution. They never wanted you to know. Because once you unlock it, you'll never see the world the same way again. This isn't about sight. It's about vision. And what I'm about to share with you is forbidden for a reason. Silence is not the absence of sound. It's the presence of something deeper. It's the space where truth speaks. It's the terrain where the invisible becomes visible. And yet, we run from it. We drown it in distractions, fill it with notifications, bury it beneath the noise of the world. But here's the truth. If you cannot sit in silence, you will never hear the call of your inner vision. You'll keep chasing the loudest voices instead of following your own. The great mistake of modern living is believing that action equals progress, that noise equals importance, that busyness equals purpose. But your truest clarity is never found in chaos. It's found in the pause. Think about it. The greatest revelations in life don't arrive when you're scrolling, talking, or hustling. They come in the stillness, in the car, alone at night, in the shower, in the moment between waking and sleeping. That's not coincidence. That's design. Silence is the language of the soul. And the soul doesn't shout. It whispers. The ancient mystics, prophets, visionaries, they all had one thing in common. They withdrew from the world before they ever tried to change it. They went to deserts, mountaintops, caves, not to escape, but to see. Because to see beyond the visible, you have to first disconnect from the distractions that distort your perception. This is the forbidden technique no one talks about. Not because it's hard to do, but because it's hard to sell. Silence doesn't make noise. It doesn't advertise, but it reveals. Your vision, your true vision, is not something you stumble upon randomly. It's hidden under layers of mental clutter. Every complaint, every argument, every mindless scroll, every opinion you absorb without question adds fog to your inner lens. Silence is the lens cleaner, the mental detox, the reset button that nobody presses because they're afraid of what they might hear if everything else goes quiet. But listen closely. The silence is not empty. It's full of answers, full of direction, full of next steps. Most people never hear them because they're tuned to external chaos, not internal clarity. The world teaches you to listen louder. But vision begins when you learn to listen deeper. Try this. 1 hour. No phone, no music, no talking. Just you and silence. Let your thoughts race. Let the discomfort rise. And then, wait. Because after the mental noise clears, something else emerges. A voice not of fear, not of anxiety, but of wisdom. Your vision doesn't scream for your attention, it waits for your readiness. And readiness is born in stillness. Remember this, you cannot see the invisible if your mind is full of the obvious. You must mute the noise to awaken the vision. Silence is not a void, it's a gateway. And if you dare to enter, what you'll see on the other side is you. Unfiltered, undistracted, undeniable. Your eyes are not cameras, they're projectors. And what you see outside begins with what you believe inside. Before your brain detects a single detail of the world around you, your mind has already decided what it expects to find. That's why two people can witness the same event and walk away with two completely different truths, because perception isn't passive. It's a projection. You don't see the world as it is. You see it as you are. Every belief you hold acts like a lens, tinting everything you look at. If you believe people can't be trusted, you'll spot betrayal even where there's none. If you believe success is rare, you'll miss the opportunities in front of you. The truth is, your thoughts don't just describe reality. They shape it. Your repeated thoughts become mental filters, turning possibilities into patterns. Over time, the brain rewires itself to look for what it already believes, and it becomes blind to everything else. That's the great trap. You think you're just reacting to life, when really, you're reenacting the script you've been repeating in your mind. But here's the breakthrough. If your thoughts can distort your vision, they can also expand it. Change what you expect to see, and your mind will start detecting new doors you never noticed before. Say to yourself, I always find solutions. And suddenly you'll see options inside problems. Say, I attract good people. And you'll stop tolerating chaos disguised as friendship. The shift isn't magical. It's neurological. The brain begins to seek and prioritize what aligns with your new inner narrative. That's why the most powerful change doesn't start in the world. It starts in the mind. You're not trapped by your circumstances. You're trapped by the beliefs that filter them. Your reality is not fixed. It's filtered. And the one holding the filter is you. The technique to seeing beyond the invisible is not just about closing your eyes. It's about opening your mind. This is the forbidden knowledge they never taught you. That reality is not just observed. It is interpreted. And the interpreter is your inner dialogue. To see something new, you must say something new. You must think on a higher frequency, not because it's trendy, but because your vision depends on it. Your outer world bends to the shape of your inner world. And once you grasp that truth, you'll never be a passive observer again. You'll be a conscious projector. You'll start to see what others miss because you've rewired your lens to detect possibility where they see limits. So the next time you look at your life, remember, what you see isn't just what's there, it's what you've been trained to find. Change the thoughts, and the world changes shape. Emotions aren't just feelings. They're frequencies, vibrations that either fog your inner lens or bring everything into sudden, startling focus. Every emotional state you enter tunes your internal perception like a dial, and your inner vision, your ability to sense what others can't, to perceive beyond the physical, is exquisitely sensitive to that frequency. When you're angry, your vision narrows. You don't see possibilities. You see enemies. Anger shrinks your awareness to a single frame. The threat, the insult, the injustice. It's blinding. When fear takes over, your mind starts projecting danger onto everything. You're no longer seeing reality. You're seeing survival mode hallucinations. Fear distorts. It magnifies shadows, mutes blessings, and paralyzes the part of you designed to dream. But here's the part they never teach you. Just like negative emotions can shut down vision, positive ones can activate it. Gratitude isn't just a nice feeling. It's an energetic elevation. It clears the fog. It widens your perspective. In gratitude, you begin to notice beauty you ignored, opportunities you dismissed, and connections you once overlooked. It doesn't just make you feel better. It literally shifts what you see. Conviction is another trigger. When you're deeply aligned with your purpose, a powerful inner clarity rises. You start to see paths that others call impossible. You move with a certainty that makes people wonder how you knew what would work. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. Imagination, too, is a frequency, a high one. When you activate imagination, you bypass your current limits and tap into what could be. You begin to sense future outcomes before they manifest. You begin to design, to shape, to call the unseen into form. This is why the most visionary leaders, artists, and thinkers were deeply emotional beings. Not because they were unstable, but because they had access to these hidden realms of perception. They knew how to ride the frequency of their emotions, to reach mental elevations others couldn't. But here's the warning. If you let emotions use you, they will sabotage your vision. But if you learn to use them, they will unlock it. The real power comes when you stop seeing emotions as distractions and start treating them as indicators, internal weather systems that either fog your windshield or clear your skies. If you want to see beyond the invisible, don't just ask, what am I looking at? Ask, what am I feeling while I'm looking? Because the emotion you're holding is the filter you're using. Shift the feeling, and what you see transforms with it. This is the technique the world ignores. Emotional mastery is not just about staying calm, it's about tuning your frequency high enough to see clearly, think boldly, and create fearlessly. Once you grasp this, you'll never be ruled by emotions again. You'll ride them like signals from your higher self, leading you toward the vision only you were meant to see. Imagination has been misunderstood, mislabeled, and underestimated for far too long. Brushed off as child's play, dismissed as escapism, and downgraded to a mental distraction. But the truth is, imagination is not pretend, it's preview. It's not the mind wandering into fantasy, it's the spirit rehearsing reality before it arrives. What most people call daydreaming is actually your inner intelligence test driving the future. Running simulations, creating prototypes of possibility, giving you glimpses of what could be if you had the courage to follow through. Visionaries don't fantasize for fun. They access the unseen, the not yet, the blueprint of destiny waiting to be built in real time. The world might laugh at imagination, but every skyscraper, business, revolution, and invention you see today was once just a wild mental picture in someone's head. It was invisible until someone believed in it enough to bring it through. And that's what makes imagination sacred. It's not delusion, it's design. The great mistake is thinking that just because something hasn't happened yet, it isn't real. But the unseen is just the unborn, and imagination is the womb. The moment you imagine something vividly, with emotion and intention, you begin to reshape the neural architecture of your brain to recognize, attract, and create that outcome. This isn't magic, it's neuroscience. Athletes use it to rehearse perfect performances. CEOs use it to mentally walk through billion-dollar decisions. Artists use it to birth entire worlds. It's a skill, not a fantasy. But here's the twist. The more vivid your imagination, the more resistance you'll face. Because what you can see and feel internally threatens the comfort zones of those who can't. They'll call you unrealistic. But what they don't realize is that everything that's real today was once unrealistic. The airplane, the internet, the moon landing, all began in the mind of someone bold enough to believe their inner preview was more trustworthy than the outer proof. That's what separates dreamers from doers. Both imagine, but only one trusts the vision enough to act on it. Your imagination is your original navigation system. It shows you what you're here to build, who you're here to become. But if you keep ignoring it, numbing it, shaming it, or trading it in for someone else's version of reality, you'll go blind to your own calling. So the next time you catch yourself daydreaming, don't dismiss it. Listen. Pay attention to what lights you up. That's your soul saying, this is the direction. Your imagination isn't random. It's revelation. It's the forbidden tool that breaks the rules of time, lets you preview the possible, and grants you access to dimensions of yourself the world hasn't seen yet. So don't bury it. Don't silence it. Cultivate it. Because if you can imagine it vividly, you can begin to live it boldly. And that's when the impossible becomes inevitable. Discomfort isn't the enemy, it's the doorway, and most people spend their entire lives running from it, not realizing that what they're really running from is the exact experience that would unlock their deeper vision, the invisible realm. The place where your purpose, clarity, and next level self reside isn't hiding from you, it's hiding behind the very thing you keep avoiding. Fear, rejection, risk, awkwardness, uncertainty. Those aren't roadblocks, they're thresholds. And every time you step into discomfort instead of stepping away from it, your inner sight begins to sharpen. Why? Because discomfort shatters illusions. It strips away your false sense of control, exposes the mental noise, and forces you to face the truth of who you are without the mask. That truth is raw, it's real, and it's powerful. In comfort, everything is blurred by routine. You're sleepwalking through life, mistaking repetition for stability. But the moment discomfort hits, You wake up. Your senses heighten. You begin to see things you missed while you were numbed out. Patterns, habits, hidden fears, limiting beliefs. That's the sacred chaos where real vision lives. You can't fake your way through it. You can't think your way around it. You have to feel your way through it. Because the unknown, as frightening as it is, holds the very information your soul has been trying to deliver. But it can only be received in places your ego doesn't want to go. That's why the people with the deepest insight, the strongest intuition, the sharpest inner vision are rarely the most comfortable. They've been through something. They've endured, they've risked, they've failed, they've chosen the stretch instead of the safe route. They've learned that comfort zones are prisons dressed as peace. And the moment you stop demanding comfort and start demanding truth, everything changes. You stop asking, how can I make this easier? And start asking, what is this trying to show me? That question, that mindset, is the beginning of spiritual sight. Because your spirit isn't here for easy. It's here for evolution. It's here to grow, to expand, to activate dormant power. And that power doesn't show up when things are going well. It shows up when you lean into what scares you. Public speaking, ending the toxic relationship, starting the business, saying no, saying yes, asking for help, walking away, trying again. Every act of courage is a vision upgrade. Every time you choose discomfort with intention, you are not suffering. You are training your inner eye to recognize what others miss. Most people want revelation without risk, clarity without change, insight without initiation. But the laws of vision don't work that way. The door won't open until you walk toward it. And once you do, once you move through the fear, the resistance, the awkwardness, you'll discover that discomfort wasn't the punishment. It was the portal. And what you'll find on the other side is not only a clearer path, it's a clearer you, sharper, stronger, unshakable. So the next time your heart pounds and your hands shake and every voice in your head tells you to run, don't. Step forward. Because discomfort isn't there to stop you. It's there to introduce you to the version of yourself that's been waiting in the shadows, hidden behind the veil of everything you were afraid to face. To see beyond what is visible, you must detach from the world that constantly demands your attention, your allegiance, your energy, and your sense of worth. Not because the world is evil, but because it is loud, and the voice of inner vision is quiet. You cannot awaken your higher perception while you're plugged into a matrix designed to keep you reacting instead of reflecting, scrolling instead of seeking, performing instead of perceiving. Most people are trapped in the cycle of comparison, chasing likes, checking metrics, needing applause just to feel alive. And they wonder why their vision feels clouded, why their intuition feels silent, why their purpose feels out of reach. But here's the truth. As long as you're constantly tethered to external validation, you are blind to the inner revelation. Vision requires silence. It requires space. And most of all, it requires separation, not isolation from humanity, but liberation from the illusions that keep you small. You must detach from the need to be seen, liked, understood, or approved of. You must be willing to walk away from the herd mentality, not out of arrogance, but out of urgency. Because the path to what others can't see requires you to live in a way that others won't. Turn your attention inward. Begin observing yourself the way you've been observing others. Notice your thoughts, your triggers, your habits, your desires. What have you been conditioned to want? What story have you been sold about who you're supposed to be, and who would you be if you stopped trying to meet those expectations? These are the forbidden questions that awaken your deeper sight, not the eyes in your head, but the eyes in your spirit. When you unplug from the noise, something miraculous begins to happen. Your inner signals grow stronger, subtle insights start surfacing, patterns start making sense. You begin to feel a pull, a knowing, a glimpse of something beyond logic, something that cannot be explained, only followed. That's inner vision, and it doesn't come through external connection. It comes through inner disconnection. The world will call you distant. They will say you're changing. They'll think you've lost your edge. But what they don't realize is that you've stopped playing the game. You've stopped chasing shadows. You've stopped mistaking motion for meaning. While they refresh their feeds, you are refreshing your soul. While they seek content, you are seeking clarity. You are no longer performing, you are perceiving. And that is the beginning of spiritual intelligence. Detachment isn't withdrawal, it's elevation. It's learning to exist in the world without being owned by it. It's standing in the middle of the storm with a calm no one else understands. It's seeing the system and choosing to rise above it. Once you detach, you regain your vision. And with vision, you gain authority over your energy, your choices, your direction. You stop following trends and start following truth. And the world, once seen from that higher place, no longer controls you. It becomes your canvas. So pull back, unplug, be still. Because when you stop looking outward for approval, you start looking inward for alignment. And that alignment reveals what the world can't show you, the invisible path, the quiet truth, the next chapter of your evolution. Patterns aren't coincidences. They are prophecies in disguise. Subtle echoes of the future, hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone aware enough to see them. Life doesn't move randomly. It moves rhythmically, in cycles and signals. And those who train their inner eye to recognize these repetitions gain a mysterious kind of foresight. The clues have always been there, repeating thoughts, recurring relationships, familiar conflicts, déjà vu moments that feel like echoes from another time. History repeats, behavior repeats, choices repeat. And if you're not consciously decoding the patterns in your life, you're unconsciously reenacting them. You date the same type of person with a different face. You sabotage opportunities just before the breakthrough. You feel the same frustrations in different cities, in different jobs, under different circumstances. Not because life is broken, but because your pattern is. Look closer. What keeps showing up in your life, no matter where you go, or how hard you try to change the surface? What pain loops back around every few years, like a season you can't seem to skip? These aren't accidents. They are messages. They are mirrors. And they're not trying to punish you. They are trying to prepare you. Because every pattern holds a prophecy. It's either revealing what will continue to happen if you stay asleep, or it's hinting at what can happen if you wake up. Most people dismiss patterns as personality quirks or bad luck, but the spiritually awake know better. Patterns are the universe whispering, "This is your lesson. Learn it or live it again." The gift of pattern recognition is that it allows you to break cycles before they break you. You no longer need to repeat the mistake because now you can recognize it. You no longer need to be blindsided because now you've studied the signals. When you get quiet, when you turn inward, when you trace your personal history not just through events but through themes, you begin to see the threads that tie your past to your present and predict your future. And this is where your inner vision sharpens, not through mystical visions or psychic flashes, but through disciplined awareness. The dots connect. The puzzle starts forming a picture. Suddenly, what felt random starts to feel revealed. You don't need a fortune teller to know where your life is heading. You just need to follow the pattern. And here's the power move. Once you recognize the pattern, you can rewrite the prophecy. You can shift the outcome. You can end the loop and initiate a new rhythm. That's when you stop being a passive player in your life and start becoming the author. But none of that happens until you decide to pay attention. Life will whisper until it has to shout. It will nudge until it has to knock you over. So ask yourself, what keeps repeating? What are you pretending not to notice? What pattern has outlived its usefulness in your life? Because until you identify the pattern, you are enslaved by it. But once you do, you become free, not just to break it, but to build something greater in its place. That's the hidden truth. Patterns aren't just remnants of the past. They are blueprints of the future. And if you have the courage to trace them, face them, and rise above them, you'll not only predict what's coming, you'll design it. Vision comes before evidence, not after, not alongside, but before. And that is what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary, the followers from the pioneers, the sleepwalkers from the seers. The world, in all its logic-bound machinery, demands proof before belief. Show me the results, and then I'll support you. Prove it's possible, and then I'll take action. But inner vision operates on an entirely different frequency. It doesn't wait for confirmation, it creates it. It doesn't follow evidence, it precedes it. Vision isn't built from what your eyes can see. It's built from what your soul knows to be true before there's any visible reason to believe. It's an act of rebellion against external limits. It's the divine defiance that says, even if there's no sign yet, I know it's real. This is the secret of every visionary, every revolutionary, every great creator. They saw something others didn't, not because it was already there, but because they had the faith to see it before it arrived. And that kind of faith isn't weak or passive. It's the fiercest clarity of the spirit. It's not about ignoring reality. It's about refusing to be confined by it. Faith is the eye of the soul, the lens through which impossible becomes inevitable. When you live by sight alone, you're always reacting, waiting for proof, evidence, permission, applause. But when you live by vision, you're creating, moving ahead of the crowd, ahead of the times, ahead of the data. You're building based on what you sense, not what you see. That's dangerous to the world's systems, which are built to keep you within what's reasonable. But nothing world-changing ever began with reason. It began with revelation. With someone choosing to walk when there was no road, to speak when no one was listening, to build when no blueprint existed. And here's the key. When you act on inner vision before external evidence, you set off a chain reaction. The universe responds not to your hesitation but to your certainty. Resources begin to appear. People show up. Doors open, not because you forced it but because you believed it. Your inner world becomes the blueprint for your outer world. That's not fantasy. That's the physics of faith. But the moment you doubt your vision, waiting for others to validate it, it begins to dim. Not because it wasn't real, but because you handed over the power to those who couldn't see it. Vision is your responsibility. Protect it. Feed it. Speak it, even if your voice shakes. Write it down, even if no one reads it. Build the foundation, even if no one else sees the house. Because your vision isn't supposed to make sense at the start. It's supposed to stretch you, lead you, transform you. That's the real purpose. It's not just to show you the future. It's to grow you into the person who can hold that future when it arrives. And if you ever find yourself doubting, remember, everything you now take for granted, your phone, your car, your career, your very identity, once existed only in someone's imagination. What seemed invisible yesterday is obvious today. So what will become obvious tomorrow? That you have the courage to believe today. You must believe before you see, not the other way around. Because vision, true inner vision, does not rely on the five senses, but on something far more ancient, more sacred. Faith, the eye of the soul. It's not a poetic metaphor. It's a deeper intelligence, a spiritual sight that doesn't ask for proof but produces it. The world will always tell you to wait, to be realistic, to demand evidence before action. But that's not how transformation happens, and it's certainly not how miracles are born. Faith is not passive hoping. It's an active seeing, a radical clarity that defies logic and dares to see what does not yet exist. The people who changed the world don't do it because they waited for signs. They did it because they were the sign. They didn't wait for conditions to be right. They decided the conditions didn't matter. And here's the deeper truth. Your life has already been sending you signs, but they don't always come dressed in lightning bolts. They arrive in patterns, subtle repetitions, familiar conflicts, emotional echoes that stretch across years and circumstances like threads in an invisible tapestry. Look closer. The clues have always been there. History repeats. Behavior repeats. And if you keep living unconsciously, so will your results. The same heartbreak in a different body. The same dead-end job in a different building. The same self-doubt dressed as humility. These patterns aren't accidents. They are prophecies in disguise. Warnings and whispers from your own soul saying, this will keep happening until you decide to see differently. But vision doesn't just mean spotting external changes. It means decoding the internal architecture of your own story. Why do you attract what you attract? What are you still avoiding that life keeps presenting in new forms? What vision are you refusing to honor because no one else can validate it? Most people miss their calling not because it's hidden, but because they don't trust it without external proof. But the deeper life demands that you move anyway, to walk through the fog with only your intuition as a lantern, to follow the feeling without a map, to declare a lie that says you must have proof before you move. Real clarity often comes in silence, in solitude, in stillness. And the moment you stop looking outside for answers, you realize they've been forming inside you all along, like constellations slowly connecting into meaning, but only if you're paying attention, only if you're willing to follow the feeling, only if you trust the pattern, the whisper, the recurring dream that keeps knocking at the door of your destiny. So ask yourself, what's been trying to get your attention? What's repeating itself in your life, not as punishment but as preparation? What are you being invited to believe before it's obvious? Because that belief, that unreasonable, unshakable, soul-deep belief, is the beginning of new vision. And once you see through that lens, the world stops being a place of limits and starts becoming a canvas of infinite possibility. Your inner vision is not just a gentle whisper or a passing inspiration. It is a call that demands obedience, a sacred summons from the deepest part of your spirit that cannot be ignored without consequence. When your soul reveals a direction, a path, or even a glimpse of possibility, it's not offering a mere suggestion or an optional idea. It's handing you a mandate to act, to move, to follow, even when the road ahead looks uncertain, illogical, or downright crazy to the outside world. Inner sight is the first step, the flash of insight, the feeling of knowing. But vision alone is incomplete without the discipline of obedience. To see is one thing. To honor that seeing is quite another, and this honoring requires courage, trust, and relentless commitment. The moment you sense your spirit nudging you toward a new chapter, a risky decision, or a transformation, hesitation becomes the enemy. Because hesitation allows doubt to creep in, fear to build walls, and the familiar to reclaim its grip. But your inner vision demands more than wishful thinking or daydreaming. It demands action. Bold, consistent, sometimes uncomfortable action that proves you are willing to stake your life on what you've seen within. The paradox is that disobedience is often counterintuitive. The path revealed by your spirit rarely looks like the conventional roadmap society hands out. It might mean leaving behind security, comfort, or relationships that no longer serve you. It might mean stepping into solitude when the world is screaming for your attention. It might mean risking ridicule, failure, or misunderstanding because what you're following hasn't yet manifested in the external world. But that is the nature of obedience to inner vision. It asks you to trust what cannot yet be proven, to step into uncertainty, armed only with faith and your own conviction. It is the difference between seeing a light in the distance and walking toward it even when the night is dark and the path is unclear. The history of every pioneer, every revolutionary, every creator who changed the course of humanity is a testament to this obedience. They didn't just see what was possible, they moved toward it, often at great personal cost. They honored the vision through action, even when the world told them to stop, even when their own mind begged for retreat. This obedience is not blind. It is deeply intelligent. It is listening beyond the noise of fear and societal expectation, and tuning into the steady pulse of your own inner guidance. It's a sacred contract between your spirit and your will, a promise to yourself that when the invisible calls, you will answer. Without this obedience, inner vision remains a beautiful but dormant potential, like a seed that never breaks the soil. The visionary who hesitates is like the dreamer who forgets to wake up. But when you choose obedience, you activate a chain reaction. Momentum builds, synchronicities align, and what once seemed impossible begins to take shape. Your inner sight becomes external reality, and the world begins to rearrange to match your faith. Yet obedience to inner vision is not always glamorous or easy. It requires humility to admit you don't have all the answers, resilience to persist through setbacks, and bravery to face criticism from others and yourself. You will stumble. Doubt will assail you, and the path will sometimes disappear beneath your feet. But that is the test. Will you keep following the invisible thread that only your spirit sees? Will you honor the vision with your feet, not just your eyes? Because the true activation of inner vision comes not with a single revelation, but with a lifetime of obedience. It is a journey of countless small acts of faith, daily choices to prioritize your soul's calling over comfort, to listen when the world shouts, and to keep moving when everything inside screams to stop. This obedience is the alchemy that turns dreams into destiny. So when your inner vision reveals itself, no matter how wild, how impractical, or how impossible it may seem, remember that your greatest power lies in your willingness to follow it, to obey, to act, to bring that vision into being through the courage of your steps and the faith of your heart. Only then does seeing truly become seeing, and inner vision transforms from a fleeting insight into a living, breathing reality that shapes your life and changes the world. You are already connected to the unseen. It's not a distant gift you have to search for, or an elusive treasure hidden beyond reach. Rather, it is a part of you as fundamental as your breath, a timeless spark that has been with you since before you took your first step in this world. Inner vision is not something you have to acquire from outside sources or learn from books. It is something you remember, something buried deep beneath the layers of doubt, noise, fear, and distraction that life piles on over time. From the moment you entered this world, your spirit came equipped with a natural ability to perceive beyond the obvious, to sense the subtle currents flowing beneath the surface of reality, and to connect with truths that don't always make sense to the five senses. Yet, as you grew, this innate connection was obscured by the voices of others telling you to be practical, to fit in, to stop imagining things that couldn't be proven. Doubt crept in like a fog, clouding the clarity you once had. Noise filled your mind with distractions. Fears planted roots that convinced you to stay small and safe. And before you knew it, the radiant vision you were born with became dimmed, like a light covered by layers of dust and silence. But the good news is that this connection never truly left you. It was never lost. It was simply hidden, waiting patiently for you to turn inward and remember who you really are. The unseen realm, the world of intuition, insight, and spiritual perception, pulses beneath the surface of everyday life, always accessible, always alive within your being. Your soul has been quietly calling you back, whispering in dreams, nudging your heart in moments of stillness, sending flashes of understanding that hint at something greater. Reclaiming your inner vision is not about adopting new beliefs or learning complicated techniques. It's about peeling back the layers that block your natural sight. It's about quieting the mind's endless chatter, stepping away from the barrage of external stimuli and tuning into the subtle signals that your spirit has been sending all along. When you do this, you realize that you are already in relationship with the unseen. that you have an internal compass pointing beyond the physical, a living connection that does not depend on proof or logic, but on trust and openness. The moment you begin to trust this connection, your entire experience of reality shifts. You start to see patterns where before there was only chaos. You feel guidance where before there was only confusion. You sense possibilities where before there were only limitations. This remembering is a form of awakening, a reclaiming of your birthright as a being capable of inner sight and profound understanding. The world will try to convince you that you need to seek outside yourself, that wisdom is somewhere out there, in experts, tools, or external validations. But the true power lies within. Your inner vision is the foundation for authentic creativity, courage, and transformation. It is the wellspring from which all true inspiration flows, and it has never been more available to you than right now, in this very moment, waiting for you to reclaim it with open arms and a willing heart. So let go of the doubts that say you're not capable. Release the fears that tell you to stay small. Turn down the noise that drowns out your inner voice, because once you reconnect with this unseen part of yourself, you unlock a source of strength and clarity that can guide you through the darkest nights and the brightest days alike. You are not separate from the mystery. You are part of it. You are not outside the vision. You are the vision, alive and unfolding. And when you remember this truth, you step into a new way of being, one where the invisible is as real as the visible, where your inner sight becomes your greatest ally, and where the path ahead reveals itself not by chance, but by the power of your own awakened soul. Those who see beyond the surface of things, who dare to peer into the invisible realms that most ignore or dismiss, become the true architects of reality, not by accident, but by design. From the dawn of human history, the world has been shaped not by passive observers, but by visionaries who saw what others could not, who refused to accept the world as it was and instead imagined what it could be. You were never meant to simply follow the currents of the world or to conform to the limits imposed by society's collective vision. You were born with the capacity and the calling to redesign it. This is not a boast or an idle dream. It is a fundamental truth about the power inherent in your inner vision. When you cultivate the ability to see beyond the obvious, beyond the surface distractions and the noise of everyday life, you tap into a creative force that precedes physical manifestation. Reality in its essence is fluid.